Cheers and salutations. My name is Kit, and welcome one and all to Americans Learn. Hope all of you are doing well. Please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and hit that ring bell notification. That way, all of you are made aware we upload new content upon our YouTube channel. And today, we have ourselves an interesting video to check out. It is titled World War II, Germany versus Poland, 1939. So this is from Eastory, EA Story, Eastory. So okay, perhaps the channel will introduce its name to us so we could say it properly. But yes, Germany versus Poland, 1939. So, hey, listen, I think we all know if we cracked open a history book or listened to some of the great history documentary channels here on YouTube and not on the History Channel, because the History Channel is only dedicated to trucks, aliens, and Bigfoot now. How that happened. But we all know that Germany did steamroll through Poland. So this is about, I guess, the war and what took place in the Eastern Front. So grab yourself a tasty snack and a tasty beverage, and please be sure to support the original content creators because that's the right thing to do. It's the one thing I expect out of all of you. So let's check it out in a 3, a 2, a 1.
In the Polish campaign, the German forces were stronger, but they did not have an overwhelming numerical superiority over the Poles. So why did it take the Germans only more than a month to completely defeat Poland? The Germans had two key advantages. Their army was larger and had better equipment than Polish forces, and also the Germans possessed tanks, which would give them greater punch and much faster movement. Poland used two strategies to counter the German advantages. The Poles had made an alliance with Britain and France so that they could put pressure on Germany from the west. In this way, Germany would have to keep a large part of their forces there and could not deploy a strong force against Poland. In order to counter Germany's superior offensive capabilities such as tanks, Poland had adopted another strategy. It had created two defensive lines. The main line was behind the Vistula River and its tributaries, and they could retreat to a shorter line on the Romanian bridgehead if things went badly. But there was a problem. Poland could not start the war with all of its forces deployed behind its defenses. Otherwise there was a chance that Germany could capture part of the Polish territory without fighting, and Britain and France would not declare war on Germany. So Poland deployed its forces forward to the border to receive the German attack and make Britain and France declare war on Germany. After that, they would have to make a difficult retreat under German pressure to their main defenses. On September 1st, 1939, the Germans launched the attack along the whole front. The Poles had established an intermediary defensive line where they planned to halt the initial German advance. In the north, the Germans encircled some of the Polish units and re-established land connection with East Prussia. In the south, the Germans reached the southernmost part of the Polish defensive line. They then launched several tank attacks against it. In the south and center, the Poles were able to contain the Germans, but in the north, the Polish lines were broken. The Poles had their reserves ready to cover the northern direction. They also pulled back their forces in the south. Soon, the retreating forces ran into trouble as they were pursued by fast-moving German tanks.
Oh no.
In the north, the Polish reserves re-established the front line and for some days could continue the withdrawal. But then the German tanks broke through once again. This time the Poles did not have any reserves to send against them. By that time, Poland might have benefited from a French attack on the western front, but the Allies had not expected the events to take place so quickly and did not give effective assistance to Poland.
Again, this is where the term blitzkrieg comes into play. And again, perhaps that's a little bit off topic, but the one thing that at the time, at the height, when the German Wehrmacht was getting going and the Panzers too, they were taking notes in regards towards how warfare was being conducted from the Spanish Civil War when then General and soon-to-be dictator Francisco Franco was facing off against the remnants of the Republic and its associated allies. It made very clear that mechanized warfare, aerial warfare, was to be the new norm and the advantage over what was conducted in the First World War. And this is why we are seeing firsthand the German forces just push on through these defenses, and which would eventually lead to the collapse of Poland and be occupied by the Nazis through the entirety of the war until Allied victory.
Polish forces decided to launch a desperate counterattack against the German forward units to allow their forces to escape. However, most of the Polish units were too disorganized to counterattack, and in the south their forces were encircled. The Polish counterattack in the north allowed some of the Polish forces to withdraw to the Warsaw area, but soon the Germans turned their attention towards the counterattacking force and cut it off. The Germans succeeded in their plan to cut off most of the Polish forces before they could reach their main defenses. By that time, they had already breached the Polish defenses from the north. 10 days earlier, the Germans had reached the Polish main defensive line from the north. The Poles misjudged the situation and their troops were out of position, which allowed the Germans to find a weak spot in the Polish defenses and cross the river. The Poles attempted to make a stand behind another river line, but the Germans used momentum to cross it before the Poles had readied their defenses. The main Polish defensive line was now breached from the north. The Polish forces were now ordered to retreat to their final defensive line at the Romanian bridgehead. Part of them ignored the order and remained to defend Warsaw. During that time, the Polish units in the south had been falling back. The Poles were not able to hold a solid front, and the faster moving German units bypassed them and crossed the main Polish defensive line with little opposition. They now moved to capture the center of the Polish resistance at Lvov. The Germans were unable to take Lvov, but they cut off the Polish units that attempted to fall back to the town. The Germans were now in position to prevent the rest of the Polish army from reaching the Romanian bridgehead. The next Polish forces approached from the west. The Germans moved in from several directions and cut the Poles off from all sides. After the Poles could not break through the German defenses, they surrendered. The Germans were not in a good position to easily destroy the Polish forces coming from the north, but by that time the Soviet Union had joined the conflict.
And here's where the Soviets come in, and Poland is completely ill prepared. And they just decide to cut Poland in half between the Soviets and the Nazis. And that was the end for Poland. Its army was ill prepared. It didn't have the technology necessary to counter the mechanized warfare or the fresh troops that the Soviets were now using to invade Poland at the time.
And attacked the undefended Polish border from the east. The Red Army quickly advanced and cut off the retreat path south for the Polish forces. The Poles had no choice but to break through the Soviet or German lines to escape to the south. They chose to attack the Germans, but they were unable to break through and surrendered. With that, most of the largest formations of the Polish army had been destroyed. Without any help from the outside, the Polish defenders in Warsaw surrendered to the Germans. By early October, the Soviets and the Germans had finished mopping up the remaining Polish forces and the campaign was over. So, why was Poland defeated only in a month? You can see from the campaign that the reasons the Poles hoped to win the war did not come into play. Poland gave up its defensive positions in order to be sure to get the help from Britain and France. But no one expected the Germans to advance so fast, and Britain and France were not ready to give Poland significant aid so early. So Poland could not utilize the foreign aid nor its defensive advantages. Meanwhile, the Germans could make full use of their stronger army and tank formations, and this resulted in quick Polish defeat. It is time to pay respects to the E Company for its
E Company, very good.
contribution to the coverage of the Polish campaign. You may want to join its ranks, as in the next episode we will continue on our way east to look at a long but often overlooked conflict between two great powers.
All right. Well, first of all, what a very fascinating channel and video that gave, a short and simple, detailed analysis about what happened to Poland during the Second World War. And, again, look, hindsight's 2020. They should have maintained their defensive positions. Perhaps maybe they would have held off longer if they had all their forces behind those defensive lines, because there was the assumption and they assumed, I guess the Polish government at the time assumed, that, well, the Allied forces, France and Great Britain, would be ready to jump into action. And there's an old saying, you never assume, because it makes, and, you know, I think we know about assume. Just the acronym of spelling assume. You never assume. You have to make as many educated decisions as possible. And hindsight is again 2020. They should have been ready with at the defensive lines, but also, you know, they didn't look at their eastern border as well with the Soviets, and with Poland being carved up by the German Third Reich, it would be foolish. I think the Soviets wouldn't have jumped on that opportunity as well. Until then, if you guys want us to check out more from this channel and learn more about the Eastern history of the Second World War, why, type in the comment section below, and we'll get to it as fast as possible. Until then, take good care of yourselves and drink water. Keep on winning.